O'Reilly, anchor of the No Spin News, author of Confronting Evil, soon Confronting America, host of the We'll Do It Live podcast. Bill, good to see you. All right, pick up where Kelly Meyer left off. Do we need rally mode Trump, or do we need President Trump, Americana Trump tonight?
Well, I'd like to get some precision in the president's speech. I don't think it's fair to say that he's making it all about him. So the president, like every other president we've ever had, has certain priorities. And one of those priorities is cleaning up the election cycle and making sure that Congress passes a law that reinforces the Constitution that says if you're not born, if you're not an American citizen here, you can't vote. So that's number one on a hit parade as far as domestic is concerned. And I don't begrudge him that. I think that's a good thing to have. I mean, the housing you can do any time, and he'll do it. It'll get done.
He wanted to make a point today.
On the Iranian thing, what was that?
He wanted to make a point today. Let's stick with the Save America Act. We'll get to Iran. We got a few minutes before the president comes out. It looks like Transportation Secretary Duffy there. They don't have the seal yet up on the podium. But let's stick now with this domestic issue, because I think it's an important thing. The Save America Act, voter ID, a lot of other things. The shenanigans in California, when you write the rules, you don't have to cheat. Cheating's legal then. Proved why this would be so important. Proves why Democrats are so scared of it. But there's a lot of Republicans who aren't willing to give it to him. For example, here is a number of them talking today after the lunch.
He did call some people out for voting against the War Powers Act.
The president was and is mad as a murder hornet about the War Powers Act.
The president closed by preaching unity, but he spent the entire hour talking about things which were not exactly unifying.
He did not particularly care for my comments. Raised his voice. I lost my temper. That's not appropriate. It's the Irish in me. But I, again, matched his tone and his volume, and it went back and forth.
That's the Irish in me, I thought, was the part that I pulled out of that. But two of the last men really have a problem with Trump personally. But this Speaker Johnson said this, I'll just read it, when asked about the cancellation. He's laser focused on Save America, as most common sense Americans are. I talk to a lot of Americans, Bill, spend a lot of time outside of D.C. None of them are talking to me about the Save America Act. Is this where the American people's priorities are?
Well, I don't know if they know about it. We all think when we're in the media that everybody follows this stuff on a day-to-day, and they don't. This is a big, important piece of legislation. To have foreigners voting in American elections, a violation of the Constitution. Period. It's not that you're for or against. That's what it says. And Trump wants to enforce that based upon his own experience. Nothing wrong with that. All right? Now, as far as the Republicans are concerned, it's more about the War Powers Act. So Donald Trump doesn't want to be constrained by a senator from Louisiana. He doesn't. And he gets teed off if he feels that that's what's in play. Now, I'm kind of neutral on the War Powers Act. I don't really care because it means nothing. President Trump be able to do what he wants in Iran, no matter what the War Powers Act says. So it's not a big deal to me. I'm a realistic kind of guy. And Trump will carry on that conflict until it reaches critical mass.
Okay, so my question, though, is where is Trump vis-a-vis the American people? He's fighting with everybody. Gas prices are down, stock market's up. We said that. Is that enough?
Is it enough for what?
Is it enough to turn the president's poll numbers around? He's going to come out tonight. He's going to be in rally mode. That's just who he is when he gets in front of a crowd like this. We know what he's going to say effectively about how great everything's been and how terrible the Democrats are. And he's going to get angry about a couple of things he does when he does this. Does the American people, is he matching the tone of the American people?
You know, that's a tough question. The American people want relief, economic relief, number one. The more of that he can offer them in this speech, the better for the Republican Party and Donald Trump. That's number one. If I were him, I'd have a sheet of priorities. So they want relief from the gas prices, and the gas is going down big time. But again, most people, they don't see it because the greedy oil companies aren't coming down as quickly as the worldwide market. All right, so very precisely, if I were the president, I'd say, in the last week, this is what's happened. And we're going to make sure that the retailers in the American oil industry follow suit. That's number one. Number two, they want this Iran thing to go away. Now, I don't know if it's going to go away. The only thing I know is America did the right thing, but it has not worked out the way the Trump administration planned. And on this network, I said, all right, you ought to pull that clip next time I'm on. This is the biggest gamble Donald Trump has ever taken, because you cannot.
Bill, I just want to interrupt you for 1 second. I just want to tell you, viewers, on what's going on. Sean Duffy's speaking down at the mall. The pictures you were seeing was from the pool. President Trump is making his way now from the White House down to the National Mall. Flyover happens probably in about 20 minutes. Bill, continue.
All right. I used to be a lifeguard, so if they want me to volunteer to be in the pool,
would you get into the reflecting pool?
Sure, I don't care. I'd have a little stand and a whistle, and I'd keep everybody out of there. But if I have to go in and rescue a minnow, I'll do it. Yeah,
well, that's about all you can stand in. It's about this tall. It'd probably come up to your ankles. As we look down. The reflecting pool, I think, is an interesting thing going on, right? It's something that nobody cared about. I used to run past it during the Obama administration. It was filled with algae then. Nobody cared. Then Trump won. Nobody cared. Biden, nobody cared. Now, all of a sudden, everyone cares because they think they can make Trump look bad. It's something he keeps talking about. Probably you'll hear about it tonight. Take a listen.
This is a very political thing. But as I understand it, 6 are under arrest. This was pure vandalism. It's an amazing thing that we did. Don't forget, it hasn't worked properly since it was built, because it always leaked in 1922.
I just don't understand the president getting married now in the details of the reflecting pool. He's going to talk about it tonight, and there's a lot of Americans who are going to be sitting at home, as you point out, thinking about relief. They're going to be thinking about, hey, can I afford gas? Can I afford to buy steaks for a July 4th grill out? And the president's talking to him about the pool and whether it leaks or not.
That's because he thinks it was sabotage. So Trump thinks that this pool was sabotaged. I'm blaming Hunter Biden. I don't care what anybody says.
It's a new one.
I think I saw Hunter out there about 2 in the morning with a pail. I'm blaming him. But that's what it's all about. He wants to make the Democrats look bad, and he thinks it was sabotage.
Okay, but you're making jokes about it. It's becoming this whole thing. Is it a serious issue that requires the President of the United States to deal with in the midst of the Iran war and the American people's economic problems, or is it not?
It's not a serious issue to me as an American citizen. But if he wants to make a point that he believes the reflecting pool was sabotaged, I don't have any problem with that. Okay. Let him make the point. People can make up their own minds. Jeanine Pirro is a prosecuting officer. If there is sabotage, I wouldn't want to go in front of the judge. But
there's a bunch of liberal judges in D.C., Bill. Nobody cares here. The judge would probably give him a trophy.
Yeah, it's a trifle. Iran is the big one. And again, comfort needs to be brought. And it's almost impossible to do because the mullahs every day change their mind or lie or do this or do that. You know, our posture is very simple. All right, you let weapons inspectors in, and the whole thing goes away. But the mullahs don't want to do that for some reason. I don't know why, but you imagine how frustrating that is.
Yeah, but
so let's just recap. He's got to reinforce that the oil and gas are going to get better, people's lives are going to get easier, and that I guess he'll say that the Iranian situation is going to get better, but there'll be a lot of doubt on that front.
Okay. How does President Trump take away the appearance, you can argue whether it's true or not, that he's fighting with everybody? He's fighting over Iran, where a lot of people are seeing the mullahs defy him, and he says it's great. He's fighting with Republicans in Congress who aren't doing what he says he's going to do. He's fighting over the reflecting pool. It doesn't feel to most Americans like, hey, this guy's got everything in control. Things are good. I can go with my family on July 4th.
I don't think it's going to stop anybody from going with his family on July 4th. So which would you rather have, Vittert? Would you rather have a guy who's feisty and confrontational and taking on these issues that he feels are important? Or would you rather have Joe Biden,
All right,
who had no idea
we're
what the deuce was going on from day to day?
We're going to watch the flyover for a second. We'll check back in after the F-16s roar by.
Please welcome a true American patriot, Jocko Willing.
Sound of Freedom, Bill. It never gets old. Say whatever you want about the President of the United States. There was that Richard Neustadt. I think he was a political scientist where you went, Harvard. Only smart people go to Harvard. Neustadt was a political scientist professor, and he said the real power of the presidency is power of persuasion. I would argue it's also the power to be up there after the F-16s fly over.
Not for this president, the persuasion thing. I was happy the planes didn't bomb anybody.
That would have been new.
There's a lot of bombing going on.
Yeah?
There's a lot of bombing going on. I'm just happy there were no casualties or no drownings in the reflective pool. No, you got a populist president. He's not in the business of persuasion at all. He wants to ram his agenda down people's throats, and if you disagree with him, he doesn't like it, he's going to confront you. Teddy Roosevelt comes to mind. Harry Truman comes to mind. Andrew Jackson comes to mind. It's not the first time we've had that kind of a president. But in the end, it's all about results. That's what it's about. And I think that, number one, the housing situation will get signed. I hope that the voting is rehabilitated in Congress, because that's horrible. What they did in California is horrible.
Agreed on the voting thing, but I want to ask you, this is an important question, because you're right. You made a huge prediction that the Iran war was the biggest gamble of Trump's presidency. Maybe the biggest gamble a president's taken in an awfully long time, that was completely of choice. First president to take on the mullahs in 47 years. It needed to happen. You're right. America did the right thing. Let me get you on the record on this. Not whether the Save America Act should pass. The worst thing a president does is spend an enormous amount of political capital and then it doesn't work. My reporting shows that this is not going to get passed, period. There's not 51 votes to break the filibuster, or 50 plus 1 with Vance to break the filibuster. There's nowhere close to that. And there's certainly not 60 votes in the Senate to pass it conventionally. So you don't think there's any danger to Trump ranting and raving about this and making a huge push, putting all of his political capital behind it, and then it not working?
I don't think it makes that equation. I think he wants it. He thinks it's right for the nation. If McConnell can get out of the hospital, there's a chance it will get passed. And I don't think he says,
what
well...
What makes you think it's going to pass?
Why?
I can go through the senators who are not going to vote for it, period. And they're not going to vote to break the filibuster.
Well, they can be persuaded to vote. No. What you're not taking into account is the midterms. All of these people are going to need Trump to campaign for them. All of them. And so they can be persuaded. I know you disagree, and that's good. But I don't think it's a slam dunk that this doesn't get through. Number one, it's the right thing to do. Number two, if you can make a case that the American people will pay attention to, the winds will shift in your favor. Well, who wants foreign nationals voting?
That wasn't the question.
Who wants that?
Well, there's a lot
Do
of
you
people.
want it?
There's a lot of people who want it, but that's not the question. The question is the political reality, whether Trump has the political capital to ram this thing through. And
I'm telling you that the winds are going to shift in his favor when people figure it out.
Okay.
And the campaign stuff is very important. So if you're a marginal congressperson or senator and you're running neck and neck in November, you're going to need Trump.
I have not seen that anybody thinks Trump is going to be a huge push for voters, say, in Maine. Susan Collins is not going to have him come up in campaign.
Well,
she's one of the swing votes.
Yeah, but you're bringing in the fringe now.
No, Cassidy's a no, Cornyn's a no.
The regular folks.
Yeah, but that gets you to 48 or 49. It doesn't get you to 51 to break the filibuster.
It depends on you talked about persuasion. It depends on what the pressure is on those men and whether they will do the right thing. Look, this is the right thing to do. You see, do you want to be on the wrong side of history?
Bill, I hate to remind you, this is Washington. If people in Washington did the right thing, you and I wouldn't have nearly as interesting job.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.